Back to Sarkeesian for a minute. You talked about Mario.
Yeah, yeah.
Her view. I don't want to straw man her, but I don't think I've seen her Mario video actually. But I think I'm roughly aware of the arguments that people like her made. So I can
It's
probably
a
do a good
Damsels
job.
in Development. Yeah,
That
Damsels in Development, I think, is the name of the video. Yeah.
that Mario is the player character, and Luigi if you're doing two people, and they are trying to rescue the princess who is mostly useless or not able to protect herself very well against Bowser, and the whole point of the game is basically to save her from Bowser. Do you think that that promotes like this negative view that women are helpless?
I don't really think so. Because I believe that a lot of games, and this is just the truth of the matter, a lot of games are looking for an impetus to drive the player to do something. And to rescue a princess is a shallow and simple, easy, off the cuff way to say, here's what you need to do and get going, right? So that's why Mario goes to rescue the princess from Donkey Kong in the Donkey Kong games on the old coin op is just because you needed something to drive you. It was a push. It's poor writing, it's a simple sort of thing, but it's just a trope, right? And so it's okay for Anita to call it out and say, "Hey, look, we're using this trope all the time," but then to make it look like it's some sort of an intentional attack on women, and that like Shigeru Miyamoto is like thinking about how we keep the women down or something. That's taking it way too far, and that's kind of what I object to. Is I'm like, it's okay to talk about or to acknowledge that there are some tropes that come out of our society that could be viewed as either patriarchal or even matriarchal in some cases. But then to start to read a lot of intent into those things that people are trying to be deliberately harmful in doing this, then I think that I'm like, no, they're not. It's just kind of a quick and easy way to get things going. Like Ghosts and Ghouls, you had to go rescue a princess. In all the what are the Streets of Rage games, you're always rescuing, and this is pretty common. It's just a trope, but they reverse it too, right? You also see a quick start, same thing. Like what was it, Donkey Kong Jr. Now you have to be the baby and you're rescuing your mama, and you're rescuing your mama from Mario. And so just this setup of rescuing somebody is uh is really what I think was there, and it wasn't trying to make any sort of statement about the position of women in society. It was just, we need to rescue somebody. This is easy because it's a princess. Does that make sense? You see where I'm kind of going with that? That it was not with intent about anti-feminism. It was like, we need a quick way to get the game going.
Yeah. One thing Anita talked about, and that I criticized her for at the time, or on Dark Lord and I talked about this. I maybe shot him down a little too hard, but um, because I think it's not a bad argument, but I have to push back critically. Is this idea that video games themselves can have real-world negative impacts by reinforcing gender roles and or sexist attitudes in society? And that some people say that this sounds kind of similar to the arguments that people like Jack Thompson made, people trying
Hmm.
to link video games to violence or Dungeons and Dragons to violence or rock music to violence and things like this. Do you think that making those, well, first off, do you think making those claims about the real world link between sexist attitudes and video games, do you think there's anything to that? And two, do you think it's inherently carries with it certain censorious connotations?
Yes. So I don't think there's really much to that, either for violence or for sexism in games. And I remember there was a 2014 study where they looked at it longitudinally across, hundreds of people specifically for sexism in games to see if it created sexist attitudes or increased misogynist attitudes, however they look at that, I guess, on questionnaires. And they didn't see any link, just like they didn't see any link with violence in the past. So it's based around this idea of cultivation theory, that that what people are continually exposed to becomes normalized, and then once it becomes normalized, people start to act out on it. And there may be some truth to that, because we do live in a culture, but it's not direct causation, and it's way too much to take it to the point of, will we have to go and have some sort of standards to police what people are allowed to put in their games or in their movies? Who makes that decision? And so yeah, so am I getting at the question there?
Yeah, that's part one. And so is making that critique saying, "Hey, look, this video game causes violence, or this video game causes sexism," even if it's like to some extremely minute degree. Do you think that making that argument inherently implies that we shouldn't make games like that?
Um, no, I think that first of all, you'd have to demonstrate that there's harm, and I don't know that you can do it just by saying, just asserting that the harm exists. And secondly, I'm always very cautious about uh, anybody censoring art or literature or video games on the potential that they think it might be harming somebody because of what's included in there. So yeah, I'm very libertarian, very open, free speech, very close to that absolutist position of I don't think you should be censoring anything in video games. That being said, I also think that consumers can readily censor games just by not playing them or not purchasing them, right? If there's no market for these sorts of things, then they'll die. And that's the best way, I think, is let the market determine what should be there and what shouldn't be there, as opposed to some sort of elite group that tries to oversee and censor what's okay in a game and what's not okay in a game.
Hi, I'm Tachyon Blue. Thank you for watching another one of my GamerGate book video segments. Altogether, I've interviewed over 70 people involved with GamerGate, and I'm going to be launching a Kickstarter campaign in the coming weeks. So please, I need your support to help make this project a reality. I'm turning these 70 plus interviews into a multi-volume series of books, the first volume of which is already completed. And so I'd like you to please stay tuned for more information about the Kickstarter. And if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and comment. More updates will be coming in the near future. Thank you, and take care.